Okay, so this class I just taught is a basic Vinyasa 101 kind of class. It's kind of more educational than an actual like yoga class. We go over form, we go over what makes a vinyasa, what 3 moves are the basic moves in a vinyasa flow. We go over what makes a sun salutation. We go over when to inhale and when to exhale, and if you can breathe in between those two. Kind of basic vinyasa 101. So kind of educational. If that's what you're looking for, I hope you enjoy. I just want to start off by kind of explaining my type of yoga. And so Vinyasa is what I teach. And so there's so many different kinds of yoga. There's Hatha, power, hot yoga, there's Kundalini, there's so many different types, and Vinyasa is just one of them. Vinyasa is kind of like a dance where it's like very flowy of like then this, and you kind of move with your breath. It also is like the core of Vinyasa is made up of 3 moves. And so it's going to be down dog, chaturanga, up dog. That is called a Vinyasa flow. Just those 3 things. And so you can just do those 3 things over and over and over and over and over again, and it would be a Vinyasa flow. Then we added things like sun salutations, and then that's basically a Vinyasa flow with other things added in, like a lunge here or there, or a warrior 2 here or there, or whatever. So basically it's kind of like a Russian doll where something's inside the other thing. So like on the very core, it's Vinyasa, which is the down dog, chaturanga, up dog. And in the middle Russian doll is like sun salutations, and that's like you use the Vinyasas to do the sun salutations. And then on the outermost Russian doll, this is like a yoga flow. You know, you put together these many vinyasas to make a sun salutation. You put this many sun salutations together to make an entire flow. So we are going to be working on the vinyasas, and then we might throw in some sun salutations and call it a day there. So I hope you enjoy. All right, let's go ahead and jump on the mat if you're not there already. And we're going to start off in a child's pose. And so, again, a really basic pose in yoga. So you want to make sure the tops of your feet are on the mat and your big toes are touching each other. So I'll show you right here. My big toes are touching here and my knees are going out. And so you want to make your knees about the width of the mat. And then from here, your goal is to stay seated on your heels as you start to walk your hands out in front of you and eventually bringing your forehead to the floor. And if it's hard to keep your butt on your heels while you're here in this position, it will get easier over time. Try not to force anything. Just kind of bring your momentum towards your heels, but never force it. And breathe for a second. Just warming, just getting your intentions ready. You can stay here and spread your fingers really wide. Then close them. You can spread them really wide again. And then close them. Just keep breathing. Beautiful. And from here, we're going to walk up into a tabletop position. So bring your knees a little bit closer together. And then we're just going to go right into our first downward dog. So what we're going to do is tuck your toes under and then press the ground away from your hands and your feet. But make sure first that your hands are at your shoulder width. So they're no wider, no skinnier, exactly shoulder width apart. And then spread your fingers wide and then press the ground away. So your knees are just hovering here. And then you're going to press your weight back so your hips go over your heels. And then the goal here is to have a straight spine. So start to straighten out the legs. And then the second you feel a natural stop, just stop. And breathe here. You can press one heel down to the ground and the other. You can shake your head yes. Shake your head no. Just release your neck. In downward dog, we want to make sure our feet are hip width apart, so they're not right next to each other, hip width. And you want to make sure that you're not putting too much weight in your hands or too much weight in your feet. You want to kind of be balanced in between the two. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and bring our knees back down to the ground, back into a tabletop. Nice. So I'm going to show you something really quick. What we want to make sure to do while we're in downward dog, imagine my upper body's in downward dog, we want to relax the shoulders. So even though we're pressing the ground away, relax your shoulders down and try not to do this. Try not to elevate the shoulders up to the ears. We're pressing the ground away, but we're also relaxing your shoulders away from your ears. So let's try again. So spread your fingers nice and wide, shoulder width apart. Tuck your toes under, make sure they're hip width apart. Press the ground away, that way your knees are hanging. And then press your hips back over your heels and start to straighten out the legs. And notice if your shoulders, if you're pressing the ground away and if your shoulders coming to your ears, or if you're able to relax your shoulders. Pressing one heel down to the ground and the other. Breathe, always breathe. And bringing it back down into our tabletop position. You can shake it out a little bit. We're gonna go one more time before we move on to chaturangas. Shake out the arms. Maybe we can do, inhale the arms up, interlace your fingers. Press the sky away. And release slowly, spreading your fingers. Beautiful. And let's go again, bringing your hands out in front of you in that tabletop position. Spread your fingers nice and wide. Kind of grip the mat with your fingers. Pressing the ground away, tucking your toes under, hip width apart. Hover your knees. Press your hips back over your heels. And then hips to the heavens as you start to straighten out your legs. Remember to relax your shoulders away from your ears. Pressing one heel down to the ground and the other. And breathing. Beautiful. And then we're going to slowly roll into a plank position. So if you need to walk your hands out a little bit, you're welcome to. Coming into our high plank position. From here, we're going to go into chaturangas. So we can drop the knees. We'll do that one first. Bringing your knees down to the ground. You want to make your chest nice and tall. Bring your elbows in to your rib cage. So as you slowly lower down, you want to touch your elbows to your ribs. And just hover above the ground for a second. And then placing your rib cage on the ground, you want to make sure that you bring your shoulder blades, squeezing them towards each other, and try to bring your elbows into each other as well for a low cobra. And press the ground away and press back into a child's pose. We'll do it again. All right, coming up into a plank position, we're just going to practice that chaturanga again. So you can do it on your knees, or we can go up into a high plank and do it from there. So if you're coming up into this high plank, you want to shift your weight forward first, and then again, slowly lower, hugging your elbows to your ribs. Hold, and then press up into an upward facing dog. And knees to the ground, press back into child's pose. We'll get to the upward facing dog and how to do that one correctly. And breathe in child's pose for a second. Beautiful. So really quick, I'm going to show you how to end off in the upward facing dog. That way when we go to the chaturangas, you'll know where to end. And so with our upward facing dog, you want to make sure that you're not forward with your shoulders. You want to kind of round your shoulders back and coming up with a proud chest. And so what it should look like is tops of the feet on the floor like this. And then you should round your shoulders down and back. And looking forward, kind of up, but nothing, not looking at the ceiling because you don't want to hurt your neck. So looking forward and a little bit up, making sure you don't bring your shoulders to your ears, but you press the ground away and your thighs are up off the ground and engaged. Beautiful. Knees on the ground. And sit back into a child's pose. We'll practice that one again with the chaturangas. So forehead to the ground, sitting in child's pose for a second. And let's go ahead and lift up into a high plank position. Grabbing the mat with your hands, shift your weight forward if you're in that high plank, and then slowly lower elbows to rib cage. Hold at the bottom, and then flip your feet to the tops of the feet on the mat. Press up using tricep strength. Make sure to really use your upper back, pinching your shoulder blades together. Engage your legs, and then looking out in front. Proud chest. And knees to the ground. Press back into a child's pose. And breathe. And you can do little circles with the wrists. Or you can come up. Anything you feel like you need to do. Any movement that feels good. We're just practicing. We will put them all together. Beautiful. Okay, so how it's going to work is we're going to do down dog, chaturanga, up dog, down dog, chaturanga, up, down, dog. I got lost. We're doing all three of them together. And let's do 3 rounds of doing them all 3 together. Let's do that. So go ahead, hands shoulder width apart, spread your fingers, and then your feet should be hip width apart. Press the ground away. Bring your hips back over your heels, and then bring your hips up to the ceiling. First downward dog. Remember, shoulders away from the ears. And we're going to shift forward into a plank, either a high plank or on the knees. Shifting forward and then slowly lower, chaturanga, hugging your elbows to your rib cage. Tops of the feet onto the mat. Press up into an upward facing dog. Make sure to really squeeze your shoulder blades together, engage your legs. And then press the ground away. Flip your feet back to go into our downward dog again. So we just linked them all together. I'm going to show you the next one. I'm going to do a modified version. So let's do it again. We're in downward dog, coming into a plank. Either stay here or on the knees, modified. Slowly lower. And then upward facing dog or low cobra. Make sure your shoulder blades are engaged. Tops of the feet on the floor, looking forward. And then pressing the ground away. Tuck your toes under. Back into a downward facing dog. Okay, let's go one more time before we move on. Let's shift forward into that plank. Slowly lower, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Beautiful. And go ahead and bring your knees to the ground. Untuck your feet and let your arms go out straight in front of you. And breathe. Let your arms relax for a second. So that is a vinyasa. So anytime during one of my classes, if I say take a vinyasa of your choice, that's what I mean, either modified or regular. And it's just down dog, chaturanga, and up dog. What's up, dog? And let's go ahead, coming into a tabletop position. We're gonna throw in a sun salutation, and then we'll just do a little bit of relaxing and get you guys out of here. So grab the mat with your hands, tuck your toes under, engage your arms and your toes so you lift your knees up off the ground. Press your hips back over your heels. Start to straighten your legs out, but keep a little bend if that means that you're gonna keep your back straight. Breathe here for a moment. And then we're going to take the right leg and we're going to try to bring it between our hands. So look between your hands, engage your core, bringing your knee to your nose, and then place that right leg between your hands. If it doesn't get there, you can always pick it up with your hands and move it as well. And then we're going to bring the left leg to match. So we're just standing forward fold at the top of our mat. And then we're just going to roll up one vertebrae at a time, head up last. Okay, so I'm going to run you guys through a couple of sun salutations, just the most basic one, sun salutation A. And so sun salutations, it's all about your breath. It's all about breathing with every move that you do. So inhale, exhale, inhale. Good basic principle. If you are closing the body off, it's usually an exhale. If you are opening the body up, it's usually an inhale. So if you get lost with your breaths, don't worry. As long as you're breathing, we're fine. So let's go ahead, feet together at the top of the mat, hands by your side. We're going to take a big inhale, swoop your arms all the way up to touch the ceiling. And then we're going to exhale as you bring your hands to your center of your chest and then fold at your hips, keeping a bend in the knees. So that move is all an exhale. If you breathe more than that, that's totally fine. You can totally breathe in between. And then we're going to, on your next inhale, we're going to halfway lift. And so you want a straight spine. So either hands on the shins, the ankles, or the ground, just making sure that you have a straight spine. And then exhale, fold as much as you can, keeping a little bend in those knees to protect yourselves. Placing your hands on the ground, stepping your left foot back. So we're in to a lunge. And taking a breath here. And then on your next exhale, you're going to bring that leg back into a plank position. And exhale as you chaturanga, slowly lower. And then inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward dog. Breathe. And you can always take a couple of breaths here, keeping a little bend in those knees to make sure that back is straight. So if the left foot is the foot that we brought back first, the left foot is going to be the foot that we're going to take forward first. So we're going to inhale the left leg up to the ceiling. And then exhale, bend your knee, try to get your knee to your nose, come forward into that plank, and then bring that left foot between the hands. Beautiful. Breathe here for a second. Maybe make your chest proud into that lunge. And then when we exhale, we're going to bring that back leg to match. So exhale, step that back leg and fold. Inhale, flat back like we did in the beginning. Exhale, fold. Keep that little bend in the knees. And then inhale, swoop your arms all the way up. Straighten all the way out, and then exhale, hands at heart center, Samasthiti. So that was your basic sun salutation. And since we did a lunge in both legs, we actually can just do one and end there. But I always like to do two, that way you feel like you got it all down completely. So we're gonna go again. Feet together, hands by your side, big inhale all the way up with your arms. Exhale, fold, bend at the knees, hinge at the hips, bringing your hands down to the ground with that exhale. On your next inhale, go into a flat back. Next exhale, fold, placing your hands down to the ground and going into that, stepping the right leg back, into that lunge. Right leg first this time. Take a breath here for a second. And then on your next exhale, press the ground away, coming into that plank, and then shift forward, slowly lower chaturanga, all on that exhale. Inhale, upward facing dog, tops of the feet on the mat. Exhale, downward facing dog. Beautiful. Keeping that little bend in the knees, catching your breath here. We're going to take the right leg up between the hands since we took the right leg back. So inhale the right leg up to the ceiling. Exhale, bringing that right leg in between the hands. Core tight, knee to nose. Place it between. Or move it with your hands. Doesn't matter. Little breath here as you make your chest proud. And then on your next exhale, we're going to bring the back leg to meet your front leg. So exhale, back leg meets, and then fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold again. And then inhale, swoop your arms all the way up. And then exhale, hands at heart center, Samasthiti. Beautiful. And just close your eyes for a second. Just notice that your body might feel warm. Notice if your arms are tired, or if your leg is tired, or if your core is tired. Just breathing. Noticing if your heartbeat is pounding. Beautiful. And let's go ahead. We're going to swoop the arms all the way up with an inhale. And then we're going to exhale, fold, keeping that bend in the knees, hinge at the hips. Place your hands to the ground. And then we're going to step both feet back and immediately go into a downward dog. So remember, in our downward dog, we want to spread our fingers super wide. Grip the mat with your fingertips, keeping a little bend in the knees to make sure that spine is straight. And breathe. Get shoulders away from the ears. And just go ahead, bringing your knees down to the ground. Untuck your toes, so bring the tops of the feet onto the mat. And press back into our downward, or our child's pose. And just taking a breath here for a second. Beautiful. And then go ahead and walk your hands up one at a time till you're seated on your heels here. And then you can just bring your hands to heart center. And at the end of every yoga class, usually we go through a kind of like a guided meditation, whether it's breath work or energy work or mindset or whatever. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. I would say usually it does. And then afterwards, usually kind of release everything that you were doing in that meditation to the world. So since we're kind of skipping the meditation part today, we're just going to stay on our heels and just breathe in and out through the nose. And just the best one that I love to go back to is always gratitude. So just being grateful for everything you have, but most importantly, being grateful that you're able to show up on the mat, you're able to move your body. What better way to celebrate your body than to move it? So just being grateful wherever you're at. And hands up to your forehead or your third eye. Namaste. All right, that's it. Basic Yoga 101.